Hey! Hello and welcome to my backyard. I just wanted to give my new set of watercolors a try and I didn't want to go anywhere. So I just went outside with my paints and my little watercolor sketchbook. This is a very tiny sketchbook, but I do like it. The paper is fabulous. It's a Moleskine or Moleskin or Moleskine, however you pronounce it. I just call it my sketchbook, and the paper is fabulous. So, and then I like to use these water brushes when I'm painting outdoors so that I don't have to worry about fumbling around with a glass of water. So these are handy. And then I've got my brand new urban sketching palette and my Cityscape M gram colors. I've got the Hansa Yellow, the Pyrrole Red, the Sepia, and the Payne's Gray. And I'm just gonna paint some of that light coming through my fence. I'm not gonna do any kind of like literal interpretation of that. I'm gonna keep it pretty loose and pretty quick just to try things out. I think the trickiest part about using this really small palette is that typically if I dip my bristles into really fresh paint, I get a lot more pigment than I really want. And so a lot of times what I do is I end up putting that on my mixing palette and then just adding more water to it until it's as diluted as I want it. But I just don't have a lot of real estate here on this palette, and I don't want to start adding color to that really small mixing area. So I'm just kind of loosely putting in the fence. I want to have a little bit of light showing through the fence. Not sure that I'll end up using the Pyrrole Red in this little sketch at all. You can actually see on the opposite page I have used this set to sketch a little bit, and I kind of try to challenge myself to use all 4 colors. And the thing about this set, which I really like this set, and this is actually the reason I decided to buy it, where, you know, I usually just use primary colors. I decided to buy this because it's so limited and the colors are not, you know, your typical palette with a yellow, a red, and then a blue. So I'm trying to interpret basically landscapes without having a way to make a typical green. So I'm having a lot of fun just trying to interpret things a little bit differently, being challenged in that way. I also don't tend to use a lot of red when I'm doing landscapes, so I'm challenging myself just to throw in, you know, colors that are not so obvious or expected a little bit more. So just feeling that to make sure it's dry so I can start adding some of this Payne's Gray, and I am going to dilute this a little bit. You can see it started out really concentrated, and this is what I typically do. I put it over on my mixing palette and then I add water until I'm happy. So the Payne's Gray is a very cool gray. And so you can almost see that as I apply this glaze on top of the Hansa Yellow, I'm almost getting the feeling of a green without it actually being green, and I really like this. So I'm having lots of fun experimenting with these new colors and learning what they can do and how I might be able to manipulate them to get certain effects that I want. And I'm not going to go crazy on this little sketch. Things are pretty elementary, I would say. And I'm definitely trying to loosen up, especially with the plein air painting, because I want to do more plein air painting. I don't always have, you know, even an hour. What I'm trying to do lately is I just put this little set in like a fanny pack, and then when I'm walking my dogs, if I see something intriguing, and actually even if I don't, because I'm trying to make myself sketch every day, so even if I am not seeing something that I think is interesting, I'm stopping to do just a 10-minute sketch. And I'm not allowing myself to worry about the result or having something I want to share on Instagram. Just trying to relearn doing art for its own sake and for my sake, really. And to be a little bit more free and experimental with it. And sometimes you just need a really simple composition with one point of interest. So for me, it was just the way that the light was coming through the fence posts and the shadows on my lawn, making these shadows a lot shorter than they actually are right now because the sun is pretty low, so the shadows are very long. But I wanted to kind of get everything in here just the way that I wanted it, not necessarily the way it actually is. I'm just also trying to use up that Payne's Gray in the mixing palette. One thing about me is I do not like to feel as though I'm letting anything go to waste, so I'm trying to just kind of use up that pigment. That may not be the freest and most carefree way to paint and be loose, but I do have a hard time with that. I don't like to feel like anything ever goes to waste. Probably could have added some nice red subtle accents into maybe the fence. I'm not sure, but I just opted not to use any red for this composition. It just wasn't working for me, not this time. Alright, that looks pretty good, I think, all things considered. Then when I want to clean off these water brushes, you just squeeze them so water starts coming through the bristles and wipe them on a paper towel. So now I always like to clean my mixing palette off. I don't like to leave it dirty, but I didn't quite have enough water to just mop it up with my paper towel, so I'm gonna do something really stupid. This usually actually works for me, but you see I just dumped a bunch of water all over my sketchbook. Usually when I do that, when I take the brush off of the water pen, whatever it's called, usually just like a drop of water comes out. This time it just all came out. So, alright, well that was fun. Sometimes it's nice to just sit in my boring backyard and paint and just let my dogs run around and be their crazy selves and not have to try to hold them on their leashes while I'm trying to do a painting. That's always interesting. Alright, well that's it. I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope you have a great day.